a los encapuchados.
Nos vamos para el Congreso de los Estados Unidos, nos vamos a la Cámara de Representantes. Jim McGovern es el congresista que nos atiende a esta hora. Él es presidente de la Comisión de Derechos Humanos en el Congreso de los Estados Unidos. Mr. McGovern, good morning.
Good morning.
What information do you have about what is going on in Colombia?
Well, the information that I've received is very disturbing. I've heard from friends in Colombia who have called me directly, and I've also seen the videos online that show the violent response to the protests that are happening in Colombia. And I've been to many of these cities, to Bogota, to Cali, and Popayan, and elsewhere. And I'm I feel deeply the loss of life and the many wounded and traumatized because of the violence that has been used against these protesters. And so I'm deeply concerned. And so are many members of Congress.
Congressman McGovern, how this situation could affect the support, the help that our country receives, especially our military forces?
Yeah, so my view is that peaceful protest is the foundation of freedom of expression. And peaceful protest should never, ever be met with the use of force by police forces, let alone violent, brutal, excessive use of force, like what we're seeing in Colombia. And it's the responsibility of the police and the Colombian government to manage these protests in a way that is consistent with human rights law. And so Congress and the Biden administration, I believe, need to take a hard look at U.S. aid, equipment and training to the Colombian National Police. And I'm calling on the Colombian government to do everything that it can at this moment to de-escalate tensions and to put a stop to police violence against unarmed civilians and peaceful protests. You know, government and military officials also should refrain from inflammatory rhetoric and language that stigmatizes those who are critical of government policies. Now, let me just say one other thing. You know, I called out my own government in the United States when the U.S. government responded to peaceful protests with an inappropriate level of force last summer. You know, what's happening in Colombia is much, much worse. And I'm calling out the Colombian government to de-escalate tensions and to stop this violence.
Congressman McGovern, how can the United States help Colombia at this moment?
Well, I mean, what we're doing is urging Colombia, who is our ally and our friend, to stop the violence. And, you know, as I said, it's very disturbing to see video after video on Twitter and social media of police brutality, of beatings, sending people to the hospital who are peacefully protesting. You know, these protests are overwhelmingly peaceful, you know, and for the police to indiscriminately attack people who are peacefully expressing their voices and even bystanders is wrong. So, you know, it's the responsibility of the police to manage peaceful protests in a way that is consistent with human rights law. And I'm going to say one other thing, and that is the current president of the United States, Joe Biden, in sharp contrast to the previous president of the United States, Donald Trump, Joe Biden actually cares about human rights. What's happening in Colombia, I'm sure, is tugging at his heart right now.
Congressman, will you propose something for the congressman to the pressure Colombia after that?
Look, you know, only Colombia can stop the violence, but they need to know that if they don't, that there could be repercussions. And as I said, I think it is appropriate at this moment for the U.S. government and the Biden administration to take a hard look at U.S. aid, equipment, and training to the Colombian National Police at a minimum. The people of the United States don't want their tax dollars going in any way, shape, or form to crushing peaceful protest. I mean, what is happening in Colombia is deeply disturbing. It is wrong, and I believe rises to the level of constituting human rights violations.
Last question, Mr. McGovern. Did the ambassador of Colombia in Washington or any Colombian authority has been in contact to you to try to explain what's going on in our country?
I have not received a phone call from the Colombian ambassador to the United States or any Colombian government official to me directly. But they need to know that the world is watching. And again, I mean, this is all over social media. I've received calls from friends of mine who have told me about what's happening. But it is there. It has been videotaped. It has been filmed. And constantly on social media, you see the attacks on peaceful protesters. It is wrong. It has to stop. And the American people do not want their tax dollars going to crushing peaceful protests. If this doesn't end, we're going to have to take a look at some of these assistance programs because I don't want my government to be complicit in any of this.
I'm asking you this because this morning in this radio show, the Minister of Defense in Colombia said to us and to the country that we are fronting some type of urban terrorism. That what is happening now is that the people from trafficker dealers, former FARC members, are behind all these attacks to the police stations and to different places in the country. So I was thinking if they gave you any explanation about our Attorney General said that behind this is some kind of urban terrorism.
First of all, let me urge the Minister of Defense to watch the videos. I mean, all he needs to do is go online and he can see the videos of what is happening. These are peaceful protests that are being met with violence. And to the extent that they're pointing to isolated incidents of violence that they may be responding to, they are isolated. The overwhelming majority of these protests are peaceful. The world knows that. So, rather than put forward a false narrative, rather than embrace conspiracy theories, they ought to understand that what they are doing is they are crushing peaceful protests with excessive violence, and it is unacceptable. It is wrong. It constitutes a human rights violation. And again, as I said before, I would urge Colombian governmental officials to de-escalate tensions. And one of the ways to do that is to not go down the road of trying to mischaracterize what is happening, not to use inflammatory rhetoric, not to try to make to characterize this as something that it is not. The bottom line is peaceful protest is the foundation of freedom of expression. It is key to democracies. And peaceful protest, no matter how much you may disagree with it, should never be met with the use of force by police forces like we are seeing right now in Colombia. And so I hope that there's some rethinking in the Colombian government about how to deal with this. I hope that they will end the violent attacks against these protesters by governmental forces. I hope that they will respect people's right to peaceful protest, and I hope they will engage these protesters, on the issues that they're raising. But not engaging them doesn't mean meeting them with violence. And again, I've been watching what's been going on. I've been hearing from people, but maybe if this continues, we should find a way to make sure that any aid that we send to Colombia goes directly to the people and not to the security forces or the police that are guilty of this. But the world is watching, and I would again urge Colombian government officials who are trying to characterize this as something that it isn't. Watch the videos. It's clear.
Congressman McGovern, thank you very much for your time, and we hope that we have a better time in the near future in Colombia. We are having a very bad time. Thank you very much.
Colombia is in my prayers. Be safe.
Thank you. Thank you very much. Colombia está en mis oraciones. Estén seguros. 3 veces dijo, el mundo los está observando. Y me llama la atención, Grace, es el presidente del Comité de Derechos Humanos de los Estados Unidos, del Congreso de los Estados Unidos. Él promueve una moción de censura para la ayuda de Colombia con esos videos, porque él dice, miren los videos. No se pongan a creer en teorías conspirativas. Cuando le hablé de lo que decía el fiscal y el ministro de Defensa. Pero ¿dónde estará el embajador de Colombia en Washington? Como para que le dé alguna explicación oficial de lo que piensa el director de la policía, el comandante del ejército, el ministro de Defensa o el fiscal general de la Nación. Ahora sí que debemos estar bien preocupados, Grace. Resumen ejecutivo de lo que dice el presidente del Comité de Derechos Humanos en el Capitolio, donde se le pone el chulito, el visto bueno a la ayuda a Colombia, que mayoritariamente va a la policía y al ejército. ¿Qué dijo el señor McGovern?
Bueno, Julio, sí deberíamos estar muy preocupados porque la información que él tiene y que le ha llegado por parte de lo que está pasando acá en Colombia es de amigos que tiene acá y de los videos que puede ver en las redes sociales. Dice que los videos son absolutamente perturbadores y le perturba ver mucho esa reacción violenta que ha tenido la fuerza pública a las protestas. Dice que él ha estado en esas ciudades de donde vienen esos videos como Cali, Bogotá, Popayán, y lamenta mucho las muertes y los heridos y la violencia que se está usando contra los protestantes. No solo le preocupa a él, sino que nos decía que le preocupa también a muchos otros miembros del Congreso de los Estados Unidos. Si nos dice que esta ayuda o estas protestas y esta reacción puede afectar a la ayuda que recibe el país desde los Estados Unidos, y dice que han visto lamentable uso de la fuerza y por eso están revisando esa ayuda que los Estados Unidos le da a las fuerzas policiales. Dice que van a buscar una manera de que le llegue a las personas directamente si esta situación sigue escalando. Por eso llama al gobierno e insta a desescalar esta situación, a no estigmatizar a los críticos del gobierno, no estigmatizar a los protestantes, y también nos dice que una forma de ayudar a nuestro país en este momento es estar vigilantes a lo que está pasando acá en el país, porque por supuesto Colombia es aliado de los Estados Unidos y por eso están instando a parar la violencia, porque repite, es perturbador lo que se puede ver en las redes sociales, esa brutalidad policial, los heridos en las protestas que él reitera son pacíficas y la policía lo que ha hecho es atacarlas indiscriminadamente, y para él está absolutamente mal. Él nos dice, Julio, que el presidente Biden, contrario al presidente Trump, sí le importan los derechos humanos y seguro le duele muchísimo en su corazón lo que está pasando en Colombia. Si hay maneras de presionar a nuestro país, él dice que sí, que si no cambian esa manera de atacar a los protestantes van a haber consecuencias. Todo el mundo está mirando, como usted decía, y pues van a revisar estas ayudas que está recibiendo Colombia y pues para ver si pueden hacer algo para cambiar esta violación a los derechos humanos. Como usted nos decía, no ha recibido ninguna información del embajador de Colombia en los Estados Unidos o ningún representante del gobierno, pero les quiere hacer saber que el mundo está mirando, está todo en las redes sociales. A él lo llaman los amigos de Colombia y le muestran estos videos y le cuentan lo que está pasando en Colombia, y dice que los estadounidenses no quieren direccionar sus impuestos a ser cómplices de este tipo de violencia que estamos viendo en las calles. Cuando usted le pregunta sobre el ministro de Defensa, lo que dice acá, dice que simplemente están tergiversando toda esta información, que lo que están haciendo es estigmatizar a los protestantes, y pues él dice que lo clave es desescalar en este momento la violencia contra los protestantes y respetar estos derechos que tienen los manifestantes.
Sí, pero usó la palabra conspiración, ¿no? Teorías de conspiración.
Sí, señor, teorías de la conspiración, y dice que es una retórica que no recomienda usar en estos momentos porque pues lo que hace es el efecto contrario de lo que queremos, y es desescalar estas tensiones.
Repito, el congresista McGovern es el presidente de la Comisión de Derechos Humanos en el Congreso de los Estados Unidos.